Welcome everyone to the Monday night webinar series. I will note that we have a special guest coming next Monday night. I'm super excited. Angela Spearman is going to join me on it, and she's going to talk about resentments on
Oh,
both sides of the equation. What a great topic. So join me. I'm going to get that posted tomorrow, but she will be joining in this time frame as Dr. Rob and Erin are neither one available next week. So Angela graciously agreed to step in and with that topic. I think it will be well worth participating. And then the recording will be posted, but join and you'll get to add your questions to the Q&A. So Erin, what we don't have questions yet. So tell us what's been going on in your world with the guys in treatment and how you're handling things. I know we've been dealing with the fire situation and everything, and how have they navigated how has Seeking Integrity navigated that,
yeah,
difficult circumstances in life while
yeah,
working on recovery.
yeah. It's been a wild couple of weeks for sure. I think because in the beginning the fires were so devastating in such a short period of time, and there was no containment, and then spot fires popping up all over the place. And so I think for us, it was safety first. What do we need to do? And when the Palisades fire started kind of coming over the hill, and our house is in on the other side of that hill. We're like, you know what? We weren't yet in an evacuation area, but I decided to move us that day, and we moved one other time. But I think it was
She's talking about the
the
residents for the
residential treatment program.
clients. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Mhm. And so I think for us, it was, for the staff to feel safe coming to work, for the clients to feel they could go to bed at night, for me not to be up all night watching the apps and the news and to make, when am I going to make the call? It was just safer for us to move to a place that was a little further away from danger. So we did that. And honestly, the guys that were in treatment at the time were so incredible. One of them had a home that he believed was burned down while he was in treatment. And he didn't leave. He's like, and people coming in were like, my relationship is on fire. Like, is the house on fire? No, then I'm coming. I need help. And so I just think we really pivoted as like, this is recovery. Life throws us curveballs nonstop. If it's not a literal fire, it's an emotional fire, it's a familial fire, it's something that's going on. And how are we going to use the tools that we've been given to pivot and lean on each other? And that's what really happened. I feel like the guys came together, the staff came together in a way that was, how can we all pitch in and help? How can we lean on each other and talk about what's going on and process those fears and move to a better place? So yeah, we are in a stable position now. We moved back to our residential treatment home this past Saturday, and by all accounts are in a better place. But so many people, yeah, lost their homes, lost their whole city. Um, I have close people up in the Palisades, and yeah, it's not just they lost their home, they lost their entire community where their kids went to school, where they went to the grocery store, that we would meet up at this park. Like everything's gone. And so it's just really, really, really a tragedy for sure.
It's interesting because Angela, who's going to be doing the webinar next Monday, experienced the hurricanes last fall, and she had done a
Yes.
webinar, a special edition webinar, and the pain of and grief and loss of, and I talked to her not too long ago, and she was like the roads that I took my kids to school on are gone. And I don't know when or if they'll ever come back. And so that's months later. So this is not like, okay, and I think with lots of things like on the news, oh, it's in the news now. And then, things move on. And, and now the fires are understandably, in the forefront. And there's still people, where the hurricanes went through months ago.
I know.
And so all of those things are true.
Yeah. And that when it's not sensationalized anymore, that the rest of the world moves on, and oftentimes a lot of the support moves on and a new crisis comes, but that those families are forever changed. And many of the fire victims 2 weeks later are like, they haven't even begun to grapple with what even to do next, let alone, find solace in a long-term plan. They're still in crisis management, but definitely, you know the level of support that's happening in Los Angeles is really incredible. The way the whole city's pulling together to help people. And I hope that that does continue, you know, even as it's already trickling out of the news.
So I'm gonna, we still don't have questions and we would welcome them, but like, I think that this is an analogy for recovery too, is there's so much support, you know, like no one has to do this on their own. And so leaning in and finding the right resources for where you are in this journey, whether you're a betrayed partner or you're the person struggling with the compulsive behaviors, you know, there is help, there are resources. And, you know, this is one of our free offerings, but we have free, low cost, and then expert residential treatment. I know you're off to the Empowered Women Retreat, you know, this next weekend, another opportunity. There'll be one in April. You know, there are resources that are real and meaningful that will help you where you are in the journey. Angela, who is doing the webinar with me next a week, does the Sunday night betrayed partner drop-in group. That's free. And she does the online work group for betrayed partners, which is low cost, you know. So all of these resources that anybody around the world can engage in that will help them on this journey, you know, of healing. And this is the long haul. This is not like, okay, done that. Like even the guys that go to treatment, it isn't like, oh, I'm magically fixed after 14, 21, or 28 days. It's like, yeah, now you have a foundation, and that needs to be, you know, continued to be supported, you know, as you move forward. And that's true for partners too.
Yeah, I think that the reason we used in the first place, whatever it is, right? That acting out behavior became the solution to that, right? If porn and masturbation were the solution to being lonely and isolated and having low self-worth and feeling like I can't connect with people, or it's how I tolerated stress, it's how I did, you know, that when you remove the behavior, all of that other stuff is there, but you don't have a solution for it yet. And so when we say building the actual, like when you're actually building the foundation of recovery, we always say that it's like, yeah, it's a lot more intense in the beginning because your training wheels have been removed, your solution, your comfort blanket, all the things, like it's been removed. And now you have to live life without it. It's just like in the beginnings of recovery for Tammy and I, it's all of a sudden the pacifier, right? The alcohol or the drug is no longer
Or
there.
whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. And so now I'm just supposed to go through life raw and angry and overwhelmed and frustrated. It's like, no, we're going to teach you a new way to live, where I take accountability. I own my stuff. I have coping skills. And community is everything. If you're not in a group, you're missing out because you're not alone. This is a highly stigmatized addiction in our society still, which is insane to me because it's an epidemic. It's everywhere. It's in our pop culture. It's in our TV, music, social media. It's everywhere. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And yet saying I struggle with this thing has not yet found its place in society. And so guys don't feel like they can come out and talk about this, right? Women don't feel like they can come out and talk about this. Betrayed partners feel like I'm not allowed to, if I share this, I'm going to be humiliated. They're going to tell me I should leave, that there's no healing or hope on the horizon, so everybody just isolates, right? Until you find out there are people going through this. Our platform was meant to bring people together, to give education and support to people that otherwise don't know where to find it. And we can connect you to all kinds of other resources too, that it's just like we wanted to be a beacon of hope, that there is hope and there is help. And we're going to give you every kind of layer of that's available: books, podcasts, webinars, videos, drop-in groups, free, low-cost groups, residential treatment, like whatever people need where they're at, we have something. And so,
well, and one of the things I share too is like, yes, we have stuff, but there's so much garbage on the internet. You can get so misled, and so we want it to be not just a beacon, but we want to have legitimate resources, things that really matter. We're seeking integrity. That matters to me, that we do it in an integrous way. So there's lots of stuff, and you'll find all kinds of stuff that contradict everything we say, and everybody gets to choose their path. But we know we've got lots of experience between all of us out here, and we've done research on things. Like there's a lot of good stuff that can help on for people that want to be on a path for healing and recovery. So, Erin, we have questions. Can you talk about the grades of sex addiction? My partner watches porn as an escape. He had an affair 10 years ago. Can you talk about the definitions of variability in the disease, and does it matter?
Yeah. So it matters and it doesn't matter. And here's what I'll say about that. So yes, there are different types of acting out, right? There are those that are only using digital content, and those that are using transactional in-person content, those that are in the relationship and love addiction bucket, who are chatting with people and are, it's all about validation and conquest, and some that have all of that going on, right? So it's not about, like, sometimes you ask an alcoholic, does it matter? Like, it's not about, well, what kind of alcohol did you drink that made it a problem? It doesn't matter, right? It's about the impact of functioning in your life and your relationships. So if the kind that we're using is not important, once it becomes compulsive and it begins to chip away at our functioning. So I'm not present in my relationship. I'm skipping out on important family things. I am lying and gaslighting and hiding. I am, missing out on work opportunities. I am isolating. When you start to see it corrode the functioning of the relationships in that person's life and their obligations to have a healthy, full life, that's when we're talking about addiction. Okay. And so, yeah, just like you wouldn't ask an alcoholic, like, well, does the type of alcohol matter? No, or even how much. It's like, it's not how much is too much. It's how is this impacting your ability to function and have healthy relationships? But yeah, I mean, there definitely is differences. Not just in, just like there's different 12-step groups for different types of acting out, there also is kind of different ways we approach treating certain things. So if someone is really relationship and validation focused and they're acting out, that's oftentimes coming from this like bucket with holes that I cannot ever, like, my sense of self-worth is low, and I get a dopamine hit when I can extract that from somebody else and I continue to put it in the bucket. And so it's all fantasy driven, right? It's all about, the limerence, as we would say, of obsession with new love. And then the digital acting out. And, we have some, porn addicts would be like, man, if I could act out in person, I would, right? Those guys struggle. It's the same thing though. We're all escaping reality. We're escaping the experience of negative emotion, lacking the ability to regulate ourselves, lacking the ability to be open and honest and have needs and have wants and share that with another person. So yeah, there are definitely different types of acting out, but if you put it all together, it's an escape from, like you said, an escape from some type of negative experience. And it's how I handle that. It's how I manage that. It's how I deal with that. And oftentimes it started young, right? That this isn't new. It's usually adolescence, and beyond.
So I put some links in. There was a webinar Scott did last week, Wednesday, on porn addiction, and he's going to do a follow-up on that as well. And then there's a quick self-assessment on our website on the homepage. And separately, there's a podcast, about porn addiction, and separately sex addiction. Both of those are on sex, love, and addiction. And I put the links in our chat. So the next one, essay, 6 months since D-Day, sober, in recovery with 12-step sponsor, therapist, and CSAT, still dealing immensely with shame of my behaviors and the amplification of shame from the trauma my partner is going through, trauma that I created. When my partner lashes out or is in a sad or depressive state, I want to be there for her and show empathy, but sometimes my shame pushes through and wants to make it about me instead of her pain. What are some additional ways to cope with this shame?
Yeah. So I think, again, being part of a community. Okay. So I know that you have a sponsor. So that's great. Being a part of a community where you can dump that shame, you can talk about that shame, you can be open and honest. I know that when you're staring your partner in the eyes and you see the pain in her face and she's continually bringing it up, that it's like brings it right back to the surface. What I would suggest is a couple of things. One is, almost externalizing like a container in front of you that she has to have a place for that pain to go. And for many years, okay, she didn't have a place for that pain to go. It was like knocking on the door and nobody opened it, knocking on the door and nobody opened it. Well, the door's open now, and she wants a place for that pain to go. And if you allow it to kind of come in and like stab you in the heart, right? Then immediately your shame's triggered, you're laying on the ground, and she actually doesn't have any place for her pain to go because you're now protecting yourself, or you're withdrawing, or you're just like, oh God, I'm just waiting for this to be over because I can't tolerate it. So I always say, like, imagine you're holding a container outside in front of you. And instead of running away from her pain, see what it feels like to lean in. And this is so counterintuitive for addicts because they are like, I just want to wait for this to be over. Like, just please let this be over. The intensity, the conflict, avoidance. But instead of, trying to come up with an answer, or try asking questions. And this will allow like the pain to come out, but also to feel like you're understanding it. Now, not like you're just tolerating it, or you're just like white knuckling through it, but asking, but lean in. God, what must it have felt like to be alone every night for a long time? Tell me more. Share with me, your experience of that day. What's underneath that? And again, counterintuitive. Most addicts are like, I'm not doing that. I'm like gonna sit through it and then be out of here. But the truth is, she's got a well of pain in there. And if she doesn't have a place for it to go, it's going to continue to come up. And for the first time ever, you're present enough to actually have a conversation where her pain has somewhere to go. So imagining it going into like a container helps to separate out, I am a good man that has made really bad choices. And I don't have to like go into my shame spiral, because that actually cuts her off from being able to get some of the stuff out, because she's not going to kick me when I'm down, or she is, and now we're in a fight because I'm defending myself. But if I just allow it to go in this container and I say, outside of me, I can see it, I can look at it, I can put a lid on it if I need to and put it on the shelf. I actually feel like I'm more in control of the ability to hold on to that if I have it out here. And it's just like a degree of separation than just like opening up your heart and like letting it all in. Because what happens when you go into one of those two responses, whether it's shame and victimhood or shame and defensiveness, neither one help her heal. And that's the goal here, is to get more comfortable with discomfort and more tolerance around emotion in general. And I know many addicts are brand spanking new to this. And it's like being kindergartners in emotional school, and then you're dealing with like the highest level of emotion ever coming out. And so you got to have some strategies. We also teach AVR in our program. Carol Sheets's AVR, acknowledgement of the pain and that I created it. That's A. V is validation of those feelings. So pick one of 5 basic emotions. I see that you're upset. I see that you're angry. I see that you're sad. And then the reassurance, R, is just saying, I can't make a promise today, but what I can do is I can continue to show up every day, the best of my ability, my recovery, to help you heal. It's a strategy that helps to acknowledge that there's pain there. I see it, I feel it with you, and this is what I'm doing, right? Some tools.
I put our work groups and specifically the Going Deeper. It's the Inner Child with Dr. Eddie. He's great, and he actually does the webinar on getting to the other side and talks about couples and the pain field and all of great stuff. But his Going Deeper work group, he only offers it twice a year, and it starts tomorrow. I can't encourage that enough, because so your little kids are showing up, and you need your adult to show up. And if you do some work on who your kids are, which ones are showing up for you, I think that would be useful for you and your partner as well.
Agreed.
Okay, so the next one, Addict here. Is there a good workbook or form that can help guide and start the process of formal disclosure? I intend to work with a CSAT for myself and partner, but want to start working on this process, but not sure where to begin the fact finding of my behaviors and things I need to disclose. Thank you.
I don't know if you have the link to Dan Drake's workbook, but I love it for disclosure prep. So if we could put that in the chat. But certainly be careful too right? If you don't yet have a CSAT that's kind of guiding the process, they all do it a little bit differently. You know, there's a way we're all trained, and then there's nuances around that. And so just if you want to start the process of prep work and bringing that to a CSAT, yes, there's definitely workbooks out there, but I really like Dan Drake's.
And often doing your timeline can be a good, like if you just work on your timeline, you're going to have a lot of information to pull into that as well. That's the
Agreed.
fact finding, work on your timeline
Yeah.
separately. But like the caveat with all of this is, Erin and Dr. Rob alternate on the peer case consultation group. One of the most talked about topics is formal therapeutic disclosure. So that's trained professionals. So this is not a do-it-yourself job. So even with a book, like, can be helpful, but I'm glad you said we're going to do it with CSATs. Great. Each of you having the support that you need, will make a difference. So that's
And the
just
other
for
thing
others. Yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
say is, like, lock it up. Whatever
Yes,
you've
thank
done,
you.
don't leave it on the coffee table, because a betrayed partner who is struggling with safety seeking and really like asking those questions in their mind and don't have answers even in their best moment, if it's laying on the table, like, you may have a do-it-yourself disclosure in the way you really, really don't want it.
Right. Okay, additional to the question before, he did it for 10 years or more behind my back 2 to 3 times per week, never was honest. That does not sound like it's that goes to the porn addict, sex addict, whatever. It doesn't matter the grades of that.
Mhm.
So I included in the chat the link to our online assessment. It's just a quick assessment. That is not what we use for clients coming into residential treatment. It's way more comprehensive, but that'll give you a little bit of an indicator. And all it gives you an indicator of is what level of help would be most effective, optimal for moving forward. So, but
Mhm.
here here's the deal. You're in pain. You're here, I'm glad you're here getting support. And at the end of the day, like, oh, well, he's only here, no, this is painful to you. You're betrayed, and this was behind your back. That's the biggest clue to all this, is it was behind your back for years. And so I'm so glad you're here. Resources for you. The Betrayed Partner Work Group will start again in March. So check that out. But you can email me, tami@seekingintegrity.com, and I'll send you more resources.
Mhm.
Okay, next one. I have been cheating and lying to my wife for over 16 years. I was caught by her and totally devastated her. I am in the process of trying to change my life for the better for both her and myself, but I find myself continuing to lie all the time. Lying became like breathing to me, and I desperately want to stop.
Mhm. Yep. I'm the one who often says lying can be like breathing. Yeah. So the truth is this. First of all, thank you for being here and making sure, like, that all of the parts of good recovery are a part of your story, right? So getting a qualified professional, a CSAT to work with, going to meetings. So, okay. And yes, in the meetings, sharing, getting a sponsor. Lying is this insidious one. Okay. And here's why. Many times this started in childhood. And when children feel like they're going to lose love, they will cut off authenticity to avoid losing love. They will choose to say the right thing and do the right thing versus the authentic thing. Because when they do that thing, they get in trouble, or, they get chastised, or they get hurt, or they get pushed away, or they get abandoned. So I always say that good liars started as good pretenders as children. And as they grow up, this continues. I learned in my family that say the right thing, or the thing that makes me look good, or the thing that gets me more love, versus the thing that is authentic, real, and right. And that becomes like a fixed neural pathway in the mind. So the best way to combat lying is knowing it's compulsive, knowing that I am going to likely lie, and putting time and space in that gap, even if it's a 5-second pause. And even if you're literally, your partner's asking you a basic question, you're saying, pause. I actually have to let my brain come online and make a different decision, because it is like breathing. It is like drinking water. It is so automatic. And then you're like, I did it. And then it's like, oh, now I have to continue this because I don't want to face the consequences. Because the reason you lied in the first place was to avoid loss of love, was to avoid the subconscious fear of what could come if you told the truth. So I would just say anywhere you can create a pause, anywhere, even, and you tell your partner this, I am combating compulsive lying. I desperately don't want to lie anymore. But what I realize is that I automatically lie. First answer wrong, I lie. So I need space between the time you ask a question and I answer it. And it's not because I'm trying to think of a better lie. It's because I will lie. I don't care what it's about, how long I was at the gym, what grocery store I went to today. I literally, my brain is wired to just say the thing that's going to sound best. And I want to foster that ability to think about it and come up with the authentic answer, not the right answer. Yeah. And a lot of this is started as like trying to be a good boy. Just be a good boy, right? Don't upset mommy, don't upset daddy, don't rock the boat. So you learn to hide parts of yourself. And again, that becomes a real fixed piece of an adult. So it does take time, but absolutely this can change.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking too, in 12 step, we talk about first thought wrong,
Mhm.
and it is, we have to learn to slow down and go, is that the right thing to do? Is that the right thing to say? So slowing things down, and all of the webinar hosts talk about that, slow it down, because we, in our, compulsive reactions, we probably won't make the best choice. But I'm with Erin, like this too can change.
Yes.
Okay, betrayed here. I'm starting to feel unsafe with my AppSat, and I really, really don't want to feel that way. She's been great, except when I brought up some comments my partner made about her as possible signs he's intriguing her or getting attached from our joint sessions. She said that's part of his recovery to figure out, and use the fact that she doesn't have too many public photos online that he can see as a positive. During my last 2 sessions, she called him by the wrong name a few times. After her and I talked about maybe putting a pin in joint sessions because of my partner's rage, and she said she might draw a boundary for herself of no joint sessions, because of the rage. Her and his CSAT scheduled a joint session. FYI, my partner and I was the last to find out, and from my partner. Also, his CSAT seemed confused as to why there is hesitation for joint sessions. Are these red flags? How do I speak up about it with her without damaging the therapeutic relationship?
Well, there's a lot going on here. So I think you just need to speak up about it. So I don't think you have to be worried about damaging the therapeutic relationship. That is really on the therapist to worry about damaging the therapeutic relationship. We are here as somebody that can talk through these things, can explain them better, can share our thoughts on why we did something. You also can have wants and needs in here, right? Hey, if my husband's going to be, or if there's going to be a change to our treatment plan, I'd like to know it ahead of time, and we'd like to know it at the same time. Um, if she has clear rules and boundaries around rage, even in, I don't know if that's coming up in session or just at home, but that's a pretty clear boundary across the board, which if there's like DV going on, domestic violence, or there's really kind of like if there's not safety, we don't do couples work, period. So I would just say that, yeah, bring it up. Say, hey, I want to review what kind of happened here in this last session, and this last few sessions. And I'd like to just understand better where you were coming from. I'd like to share my own feelings about kind of where I felt left out of the process, and yeah, just be assertive and bring it up. Yeah. As therapists, that's our job, is to help you understand our treatment model, the way that we're making choices, the way we're doing things. Um, and if you don't get answers that I think are sit well with you, if you get answers that are like, that doesn't feel good to me, then you have your answer at least. But I would say definitely check it out and go explore what is actually going on here, because there may be a reasonable explanation for some of the changes. Um, I will go back to the beginning. Um, except when I brought up some comments my partner made about her as possible signs that he's intriguing or getting attached from our joint sessions. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a female that works with male sex addicts. Okay. It gets brought up. Um, that there's fantasy, that there's objectification, that there's things that happen. It is absolutely in my repertoire to address those things directly and in the moment. And I actually welcome that, because here's the thing with objectification and even intriguing. It is your way of disarming me and pulling me into different parts so that I cannot be a vulnerable and effective professional in the room. And that is a them thing. That is what you do to everybody. It actually has nothing to do with me. And so I do think that part of this is, yeah, there is his recovery is going to have to manage this versus, you know, her saying, or you saying that you were concerned that he was having signs of that, but is that actually what's happening? Like, let's bring that to the room and talk about it. So I just think there needs to be more clarity and communication here, because it seems like there's a lot of either gray areas or unanswered questions, and you got to bring that to the room and ask about it. I don't personally see like any overt red flags here, but I would say go and check it out.
And I've got two things to add. Not every AppSat is a therapist. Many are coaches. So check out the qualifications of your AppSat. And I mean,
Good
this is a
point.
mental health this is a mental health issue, you know, and including betrayal trauma. It's like, I'm not saying you're crazy, it's crazy making, and I know that. But a coach can take you from here and forward. A mental health professional can work on, you know, the underlying things. My other big thing is, I'm not a fangirl of having your therapist seeing both of you and then you. Like in an optimal situation, you each have your individual therapist, and then either they're doing conjoint therapy, so there's four of you, and so that you each have your person. Otherwise, there's a separate couples therapist who has releases to talk to each of your individual therapists. But this gets really muddy, you know, because is this AppSat your therapist or your couples therapist? Because in the coupleship, you know, a couples therapist, the coupleship is the client, not you. And so often it feels, and it's usually the partner that feels boxed out of not being really supported. You know, I want you to have a therapist that's, you know, really got your back and working to help support you, not getting in this muddy area. So those are my two thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question. My spouse is no longer seeing a CSAT, and I'm ready to tell him I need physical space after about 2 years in-house separation. There is really no option of sharing this with a therapist as a mediator, as he is not a fan of therapy, non-recovering addict. Any advice on how best to break the news to him? I'm tired of the prolonged conversation. Situation is not good for our kiddos. Nothing is getting better with our marriage. I am going to pull up a link because we had Deborah Doak, who is a mediator,
Yes.
and so she's not a CSAT, she's a mediator, and I'm going to pull up the and put it in the chat for you. I think you would find that a useful resource. We did a whole series on should I stay or should I go, and you know, mediation and then the legal aspects. So I'm going to do that in a moment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would just say if you're not comfortable having the conversation, then you do need to seek some kind of third party person to be present, or to, you know, if you're actually comfortable having the conversation, meaning you feel safe in doing so, um, you know, then you sit down and you just say, hey, based on the following, you know, reasons, I I don't feel safe in our home together. I don't feel emotionally safe in our relationship. And after 2 years, I've decided that I would like to move forward with not living together anymore. And here's my suggestion for how we make that happen. But I really think it is. I mean, here's the thing: if he's not willing to go to therapy or come see your therapist to kind of like talk to him about this and actually structure out what this could look like, especially because you're going to be co-parenting children when you're not in the same home, then you have to just give it the information to him regardless. I mean, if that's in a letter, if that's in a legal separation notice, like, I don't know, but yeah, you're going to have, you should not have the conversation just because he doesn't like therapists.
Yeah, and Deborah, she did a great job, but it was like, if you're going to stay, stay with integrity. If you're going to leave, leave with a plan. Like all of that. I don't have it right, and I can't find my note. So check out the video series in that. I think it
Super
will be
helpful.
useful for you. Yeah, and like, yeah, it's not good for our kiddos. Like, I- adults fighting and whatever, not getting along, not having a good situation. But like, I think that's the key. Is this what I want to model for our children? And at some point, and it just it can be a game changer for people going like, yeah, no, we need a different environment. So
Hmm. Hmm.
betrayed partner here, D-Day was almost 1.5 years ago. He is in decent recovery, have had formal disclosure and impact letter. Restitution letter is tomorrow. I'm struggling with the question of, is my partner really a sex addict with typical addict behaviors, or is he really just selfish, entitled, and not a very nice person? And I've missed all the red flags from the beginning.
Well, could could be both, but it sounds like with D-Day that there was sexual behavior, and going through disclosure, you're understanding that. And so I'll say this. Oftentimes addiction is inherently very selfish. It's very entitled. It's very narcissistic, but that's also comes with the territory of this underlying intimacy disorder, right? Which is like, I don't know how to engage in emotional fluidity in the relationship. I don't know. I struggle with empathy. I don't know how to, um, sit and listen to your feelings. And like, none of this was learned. And it's why they've struggled in all relationships. It's not just, usually the one they're in currently. There's usually some wreckage of relationships in the past, or just a void of no relationships. Um, what I would say is that even though an addict gets sober, that these other character traits take time, because they're learning for the very first time, again, emotional kindergarten school here, on how do I engage in intimacy in an emotional relationship? How do I manage conflict? How do I think of somebody else before I think of myself? How do I not be absorbed by my shame and consider my partner's pain? They don't know how to do this. And I'm talking in treatment, man, we have some super successful, like by all standards of society's, marks for success in the world, they've made it. And they have no idea how to do this. Um, and so I don't think that it is simply one or the other. I mean, these two things oftentimes go together. It is a trend, right? Our clients yes, have sexual compulsive behavior disorder. They also have denial, narcissistic traits, often selfishness. I mean, that is kind of comes with the territory of addiction, because otherwise addiction could not survive. If I was connected to people, I felt deep empathy for them, and I didn't have this other compartment over here, addiction could not survive. It thrives on not caring about the people around you. Yeah.
I think tomorrow with the restitution letter, that will be interesting. Like,
Be.
and you'll see what is the plan for making restitution. I did put in our, the last thing I put, I'm putting a lot of stuff in the chat tonight. But should I stay or should I go? Like, like that. The first one, Kristen Snowden did a presentation, and she had 10 questions. I think it was 10 questions, and it was from the Gottman
Mhm.
work of, and those are just some things to journal about. It gets really easy to have it go ping ponging in your brain, like, I don't even know, is he just a jerk, or is he an and I think what the key to this is what is he willing to do? He's in decent recovery. You've got some hope. He's done formal therapeutic disclosure. You guys are making progress. Like there's a moment where you can kind of go, is it enough? I don't know. But I always think with an addict, and I know that you're wondering about that, but these are broken little boys, like, the emotional kindergarten. Yeah, I mean, I always think, find a picture of him at 7 or 8 years old, and that's kind of what you've got on an emotional level. And he learned how to compartmentalize in a very selfish and hurtful way. And he's working on growing up, you know? You like versus the last question, and everybody chooses their own path, but you know, that person has 2 years of in-home separation and there's no progress. You know, you're seeing some progress, not fast enough, of course, and you know, not as complete. You know, you're never gonna completely trust him again because you know he can betray you, but it sounds like there's hope. I'm hope I will. I don't even know you. It says anonymous attendee, but I will be thinking about you tomorrow as you go through the restitution letter. I want you to know, you know, that you've got some support in this corner. I know it's tough stuff, but hopefully you're going like, okay, this makes sense, and this feels like, you know, there could be some progress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sparing the details, I get triggered in a specific way regarding a visual trigger with my ex SAPAs acting out. It's more than a standard trigger, but less than a flashback. Is there a word for this? It feels like a panic attack, kind of.
Regarding a visual trigger, my ex. Yeah. I mean, look, the brain does some very interesting things with betrayal trauma. I can speak from, you know, my own experience that I got flashbacks that weren't even real images. It's like my brain made up things to try to fill in the gaps of what I imagined could or couldn't have happened. And it always came with this like pang of just pain and anxiety. And yeah, I think I had to go in and really start to work on those triggers. So I don't know how long into this process of betrayal trauma and recovery you're in, but I think that, you know, ultimately those triggers are largely subconscious. Okay. So yes, there might be a visual trigger, but the way that it hits us, it goes into a blueprint, of our own past trauma, our own coping and resiliency, our own, you know, associations with that trauma, and being able to actually kind of go in and clear those out, especially if you find that you're further down the path in betrayal trauma recovery and healing, and you still find certain triggers that like just take the wind out of you. That's trauma stored in your body, right? Your body is reacting in a way that's saying, I'm not okay. Like you said, it feels kind of like a panic attack. It is physical. That oftentimes there's help. I mean, EMDR is one thing you can do that actually goes in and like looks into the body. It's a more subconscious type of therapy where you're looking at what is the trigger, what is the emotion attached to it, what is the physical sensation in my body, and then you can go down that adaptive memory network and actually clear it out. So I would just suggest that if you are noticing that this thing continues, going to more of a somatic or subconscious type therapy to help clear it out, because it's automatic and you don't have control over it. And I know that it feels really, you know, frustrating and scary. Yeah.
I love EMDR. That one worked really well for me, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of different trauma modalities that can be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next one. Can you talk about the 3-circle plans for betrayed partners? So before I continue, so Debbie Allen did a webinar. So it's in our previously recorded webinars on the 3-circle for betrayed partners. It was a great webinar. I think it's from June of 2023. So check that out. But if this person continues, how do I know when certain ways of coping, such as hypervigilance, have become inner circle for me and not just a normal PTSD response from being betrayed?
Yeah. So I think a 3-circle plan is great. That can account for your own boundaries, like your internal boundaries. Or boundaries are like, what am I not going to do? And what am I going to do? Not even dealing with behavior outside of yourself. Sometimes in treatment, we talk about like a fidelity plan, and that is more about a partner's boundaries in a 3-circle plan, right? If we're talking about a 3-circle plan for betrayed partners around your own behavior, around your own reactions, around your own way of healing in this journey, it can be really profound to go to that inner circle and say, you know what, my internal boundary for myself that's non-negotiable for me is if I have days where I don't, you know, I don't take care of myself at all. Safety seeking. A lot of people will have their own internal boundaries around safety seeking and I found this for myself, that you can go through emails, phone records, because your brain tells you I have to know it all, but it literally makes you more dysregulated than you were when you started, and it's a rabbit hole that never ends, right? So it kind of depends on okay, what are my non-negotiable? These are the things I am not going to do anymore because I am committed to healing. I am not going to engage in these things. They do not make me feel better. They do not help my relationship heal. They do not bring me closer to healing. And then that yellow circle is like, I'm heading towards not feeling in my most healing state in recovery. So that could be, yeah, that I'm missing therapy appointments. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm allowing myself to kind of sit in self-destructive thoughts, right? About, is it my fault? Am I not good enough? Whatever that looks like for you. And the outer circle is really, what are the things that bring me back into that healing place where I'm surrounded by community, where I am doing things that make me feel good and having a strong anchor inside of myself that I'm going to be okay. Self-care all around, community all around, recovery for yourself, right? Because again, you didn't ask for this, you didn't cause this, you didn't create this, but you have to heal from the injury it's caused to you, right? So that is just a snippet, but I think the webinar goes into much more detail around how you can utilize this. Debbie McCrae talks about this also, that you can really set up like for your own healing journey. How are you going to structure your own internal boundaries and things I am going to do for myself?
And I included in the chat, because I'm doing a lot of chat tonight. Debbie will be starting a boundary work group. It'll be 2 different parts, kind of, and different than most of our work groups, because most of them you have to take part 1 and then take part 2. And this will be 2 different kind of focuses, and they'll be very clear. And you can take them out of order, so to speak. But we plan to start, I think, February 20th. It's not posted yet, but hopefully soon. Hopefully this week we get that posted.
Yeah.
I'll check on that. Okay, the next one. Can you explain the dynamic that the addict has? Come here, go away. If he wants to be left alone, why can't he just stay away and do what he wants and we live married but separate lives? Why does he then want to come near? I thought if I told him, do what you want to do, he would be happy. I always crack up because Dr. Rob does the come here, go away, come here, go away, come here, go away, addict behavior. So
well, because they're compartmentalized for starters, okay? And this other compartment, the addict compartment, is not only in that whole cycle, right? They could be in being triggered, they could be in fantasy, they could be in ritualizing, they could be in acting out mode, or they could be in just shame and despair, all of that. None of that has any room for you at all. Then they have this other compartment, right? Sometimes it's my work, persona, and it's like my family man. I have guys that come in that are like, I'm a great husband, and I'm like, in what reality are you? And they literally have told themselves, because in this compartment, I show up, I'm there, I'm responsible, I show up to all the kids'
I'm
stuff.
a provider.
I'm a provider, and I'm like, yeah, no. So you don't get to be 50% in this compartment and just disregard this entire gigantic skeleton closet you have over here that's actively destroying your relationship. So I think what you're experiencing is a little bit of, probably depending on, whether or not they're in active addiction. Active addiction is going to be definitely come here, go away, because they are busy in their mind and in their behavior. They don't have time for you. When they're in recovery, oftentimes, I was meeting with somebody yesterday that he was just like, my shame gets in the way. And when I look at you, it reminds me that I don't deserve you. And it was interesting, but that is a common theme that comes up. It's like, once they've been discovered, those 2 worlds collided, those 2 compartments collided. And all of a sudden, this like big secret world they had and their reality that's sitting in front of them is collided. And there is crisis and calamity and destruction everywhere. And they feel a lot of shame. And when they're in shame, they have a real hard time in connection. And again, like last week on the webinar, one gentleman was saying that like some days he's euphoric and other, that he's in recovery and he's connected and he feels hope. And other days he's like stuck in shame and he doesn't want to get out of bed. Those 2 states are going to affect his ability to show up and connect with you. But I get that from your perspective, you're like, hey, call it one way or the other, because I cannot do the come here, go away. I need some semblance of consistency. That's how I'm showing up for you. That's how I need you to show up for me. And you'll get there if he's in active recovery, right? If he's in active addiction, you can expect more of the same.
Okay, so the next one is my husband acted out with escorts for some time. After the first time it happened, he knew it was wrong. So why didn't he stop? It's not like when you drink and it's difficult to know when you've had too much.
Yeah, welcome to addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately. They do know it's wrong. And just like I talked about in the compartments, addiction has to be compartmentalized. You know, if I was entering into my acting out behavior, which again, this whole dynamic was set up a long time ago. It did not start yesterday. It started in childhood. All the factors that contribute to it. I always say some guys, they tell me about their child, and I'm like, yeah, welcome to treatment. You were always going to be here. You were literally set up. You had the deck of cards that was you were going to be here. But yeah, those two compartments are they don't even think about each other. Like addiction has to thrive on secrecy, on the total like avoidance of reality. That's why it's all based in fantasy. And ultimately, yeah, look, I mean, I can just speak from my own experience. I knew it was wrong every time. I was a drug addict. I knew every time I used exactly where it was going to lead, that I would feel the same way, and I couldn't stop. I could not stop. And I was losing everything in my life, my job, my house, my dog, all of it, family members one by one. I was in the grips, and you almost are in like a trance. Your prefrontal cortex is not even lighting up when you're in that active mode. So I just think that it is absolutely hard to understand. And I actually don't even expect that betrayed partners do understand, because again, they're like, I would never do this. I would never do this. I would never do this to you. I would never do this to anybody. And just like addicts, I tell them, you could never understand your partner's pain. Most betrayed partners could never truly understand what it feels like to be in the grips of addiction. And to some degree, that's okay. That we have different experiences. And even if you were in their shoes, you have a different brain and a different template and a different experience. So yeah, I get it's insanity. 100%. Yeah. And yet it continues and it gets worse without help. And you can know that's why the end of the addiction cycle ends with despair. And then it goes back to neutral and it starts all over again. You know, that it ends that way every time. When you're in late stage addiction, you don't even get a positive benefit out of what you're doing anymore. You're a robot that is trapped.
And that is why addicts need other addicts to
Yeah.
heal, because we get it. Like if we're talking about this stuff, I completely understood what Erin was saying. I'm like, yep, did that. I I did have the fantastical thought, each day going, oh, that was really horrible. I'm not going to do that again today. And then I did.
Yeah.
So I actually did want to not do that, but I found
Oh,
myself doing the same thing over and over
me
and over
too.
again.
Swear
Yeah.
it off,
Oh yeah.
promise, swear up
Yeah.
and down.
Yeah. 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 All of that stuff.
Yeah.
But and I say the same thing as Erin does. It's like, you guys would never do this. You can't think like this. My husband and daughter, they have not known me in active addiction. And the one day they both kind of cock their head and they go, you think differently than we do. And I go, yes, I do. And like, I understand that. And I've got tools to use and people to have accountability for, so that I can do things of esteemable nature. But yeah, my brain thinks different. And we go to 12-step meetings and we're laughing about the stuff that, like, you guys would not find it funny, and we're not taking it lightly, but rather than laying in shame all the horrible things that we've done, you kind of go, yeah, I thought that was a good idea back in the day. And so, please don't let the why would he do that keep you from getting the help that you need and the support that you need. Because and we know some addicts that kind of understand at least some of the why, and it didn't change that. They can even be an active addiction. So here's where you are right now. You can't make that unhappen. Here's where you are right now. What do you need for support for you, partner? And I hope he's on a path where he's, getting the help that he needs so that he isn't continuing, the acting out. Okay. Strategies for partners, how and when to communicate new learnings and healing and change feelings when living apart, random phone calls, texts, scheduled meetings, or is this an obvious dumb question? I want to start with that, please, because we get this. I just said to somebody earlier today, you never expected in a relationship, well, on day whatever, that we're going to deal with this and we're going to know exactly what to do. So this is not a dumb question. Thank you for asking it. And then Erin.
Yeah, no such thing as a dumb question here.
Yes.
Nobody asked to be in this webinar, and yet we are here. Okay. Yeah, I tend to think that scheduled time is better for the nervous system of a betrayed partner. And it's actually better for addicts in their own minds and plans too. So if you are, it sounds like you said communicating while living apart. Yeah. So I would schedule time. I would make that time intentional. I would make that time structured in some way, whether you use like, the Thanos check-in, we do like a relationship board meeting at times. If there is, even just saying, hey, when I have a new thought, feeling, whatever, I'm going to text you in the morning and say, hey, are you available in the evening to have a conversation about that, to make time and space for it? I think it gives addicts a chance to like suit up, using their new tools and like, okay, I'm going to prepare to be open and use reflective listening and these new skills that they're trying on. And you're also getting the opportunity to kind of regulate yourself and feel like you're not, because otherwise you could text and call when the other person is depleted, stressed out, and it makes an already tense situation far worse. So I think scheduling those times out is really helpful. I also think getting a couple's journal, even when you live apart, that, you drop it off at a certain location once a week or twice a week, but that it gives the opportunity to kind of put a thought down when you have it and flesh it out. And then they have time to read it and reflect and respond. So it's just some options, but I definitely think scheduling, especially in the beginning, is just better for everybody's nervous system.
And as Debbie McCrae said last Friday, and not, it's 10 o'clock or night. Like you were saying, when you're depleted, it's like, make sure that you're fed and you're rested and,
yes,
like, and then I'm able to be present.
If you're scheduling it, then you can control those factors.
Yes. But yeah. And if you're scheduled for it, don't, go, yeah, I'm going to skip dinner. And I mean, like, you have to be prepared, like, show up, suit up and show up. So, okay. Do you have a hard stop?
No, I can do this last one.
Okay. Are you of the mindset that when someone is angry, that's when they are, I'm sorry. Are you of the mindset that when someone is angry, that's how they really feel and really think comes out? I struggle with the things my partner says to me and the lack of addressing the specific things he said while angry. My partner had rage and anger issues long before me, and they've gotten worse since discovery 7 months ago. When he tells me my tears are crocodile tears, does he really believe that? When he tells me he hates me, does he really hate me? When he tells me I don't care about him, is that really his experience of me? When he chairs a 12-step meeting and hours later is raging on me, what version of him is the real him? He's seeing a CSAT, attends a bunch of meetings, recently started step work on his own with the materials used during meetings. He has a recovery coach. I have an app set and groups.
Yeah, well, he needs some anger management first and foremost. And this needs to be brought to like the forefront of the people that are helping to treat him, is that he is raging and these things are coming out. To answer your first question though, no, I don't believe that when someone's angry, like all of a sudden the truth comes out. I think that when people are angry, they're absolutely dysregulated. And when they're in that place of super heightened emotion, they're doing one of two things. One is they are shooting daggers because they're in pain and they want you to be in pain, right? And oftentimes that can be straight manipulation. I mean, I'm saying things that I know will hurt you, right? So no, I actually think that's the opposite. I think less truth comes out when somebody's super angry than real truth, because anger is just a lid on something else. Anger is a secondary emotion, meaning that it cannot exist without roots. It cannot exist without a more vulnerable feeling underneath it. So I feel shame, I protect with anger. I feel humiliated, I get revenge with anger. Do you see what I'm saying? That I feel sad and that makes me feel weak, so I'm going to be angry instead. Anger is a protective measure. It's a powerful emotion, but it always is a lid on something deeper. And real truth is in the something deeper, right? The truth of the actual statement is not in the defense or the mask of the emotion. It's in what's actually going on under there. I feel threatened. I feel humiliated. I feel shame. I feel lonely. I feel rejected, whatever. Those more vulnerable things that especially men are not very A, in tune with, and B, societally taught that they're valid, real emotions, wants, needs under there. But ultimately, yeah, this isn't cool. Anger and rage is not the environment for healing in a relationship. Anger and rage can be scary. And for someone who's already experienced betrayal trauma and you have your own, central nervous system dysregulation just simply around the trauma itself, anger and rage is not going to help you heal. So I would be talking to the people in your circle about this part has to be addressed, because we're not talking about look, when I see like anger, I'm like, okay, what is that? Rage? I have a feeling that is, not safe at all. So I would say consider your safety first. What's the environment you need to heal? What boundaries need to be put in place around his anger? And again, when someone's showing up to meetings, yeah, to be quite honest, I led meetings under the influence. It's a possible to happen. You have to, it is whether they're showing up with their most authentic self. And quite frankly, if you're chairing a meeting and an hour later are exploding on your spouse in this way, and you're not going back to that meeting and saying, you know what, guys, I am struggling with this thing. I'm in recovery. I'm not acting out, but man, I am struggling with this anger and rage thing and I need help. Like, that's honesty versus putting on a front of, because we've had guys that lie in meetings. We've had guys that, it's all the things. It's about integrity says that I am one person at my core in every environment I'm in, that my values remain the same, that maybe my persona changes a little because I'm in work mode or I'm in kid mode or I'm in whatever, but my values and my core stay the same. That's integrity. That is being an integrated human being. And he's still got this compartment that is like only punishing you. And that's not cool.
Not at all. And I put in a link to our residential treatment program because guys like him, and there were several other in the questions that we won't get to, that consider 14, 21, or 28-day length of stay. That may be part of your discussion with your CSAT and APSAT therapist of like, this is not working.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fearful when there's rage. That's a scary thing. And and it's abusive, whether it's physical abuse or emotional abuse, and and crazy making. It's like, am I not showing him I love you? And now I do know, anger, can cover hurt and shame and all those other things, but it doesn't make it okay to vent it out at someone else. That's for me to go, gosh, I'm feeling really angry right now. I'm going to go talk to my sponsor. I'm going to go do something, go out to my outer circle to take care of me so that I'm not causing more. So yeah, this is, there's no integrity, and yeah, we had a guy that picked up a 4-year chip and came to treatment. So like, yeah, unfortunately, meetings are great and we get out of it what we, put into them. And if I'm showing up and lying to myself and everybody else and going, yeah, I got this program stuff, I still tell on myself if I'm doing something like, I go to my meetings and I go, well, this happened, I have to. It's important to me to be, to share where I'm not at. So thank you all. We appreciate the questions. Sorry, we won't get to all of them. Told you that would happen.
I
But
know,
thanks,
every
Erin.
time.
So come back next week. Angela Spearman will be joining me, and she's going to talk about resentments on both sides of the relationship equation. It will be great. She's fantastic. So join Angela and me next week. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.